Let's take you to the Western Cape now, where the police commissioner in that province, Thembisile, Patekile, says they are looking at various options to tackle gang violence in the province. It includes locking down some areas with roadblocks, visiting drug and gang houses. Across Cape Town, nearly 30 people have been shot and killed in over a week. Nasiphi Same was there and joins us now with more. A very good afternoon to you, Nasiphi. Perhaps, I don't know if the commissioner did touch on or talk about why they have had to wait this long before implementing what he now says is what will happen next. Did so many people have to die within the space of a week for them to come up with new plans?
Well, fortunately for us, we still have the Provincial Commissioner, Lieutenant General Thembisile Patekile, who's going to be touching on that particular point. And as you put it, we've seen widespread gang violence throughout communities on the Cape Flats in the city of Cape Town. Just in Muizenberg alone, where we're standing, 2 back-to-back mass shootings claiming several lives just 3 days apart. We're not talking about the other shootings that we've seen. And just to mention that an hour before this operation that is currently behind us started, we know that a person was shot in Overcome Heights. And if you remember, Overcome Heights was the very same community last week, Wednesday, that brought us to Muizenberg, where there was that mass shooting of those young men. But I am joined by the Provincial Commissioner, who's going to perhaps be able to answer that question, why it took so long to implement what we're currently seeing. You highlighted that you're locking down this particular community, searching for illegal guns and ammunition, going into known gang and drug houses. But why has it taken so long?
Look, there have been operations that are happening, but we've heightened it now in these areas because we're seeing that it's not going down. We have operations in the Vrygrond, Muizenberg, that's been going on for the last 2-3 weeks. And Steenberg and Grassy Park, they were not really an issue. It only started over the weekend, last week, that we have this, but there were operations that are coming on. As a result, last weekend, we took 37 people for questioning in Vrygrond, and here we arrested in Grassy Park, Steenberg, 10 wanted suspects. And this is what we are following on now, ensuring that the wanted suspects, we are arresting them, looking at the guns and the drugs in these areas, and ensure that we're doing stop and search and people that can walk around freely without having gun shooting that is happening in the areas.
You highlight to us that the reason for this gang violence is due to intra-conflict within gangs,
Yes.
Leadership vacuum. Now let's zoom into Muizenberg in particular, where we saw the back-to-back mass shootings. One indicates, or we heard, that there was a police report ahead, or rather an intelligence report prior to the shooting in Xakabantu, where 3 people were gunned down, 2 of those being female patrol officers. Were police privy of this crime intelligence report? And did you act in time to prevent what we saw on Saturday night or early morning?
Look, there were operations in the area, but remember, Xakabantu is dark. Both incidents happen when it is dark. There is no electricity, no street lights, nothing. The first incident where 3 people were shot in the morning, about 5 o'clock in the morning. And then the others were shot after 7 in the evening, which is dark. Now, if you say there was an intelligence report, which gets on a day-to-day operations, but in the areas where you see in these incidents, because they're not people that are shot on the street, the people that were shot in the houses by the people that we think that they know. Hence, we have persons of interest that we're looking for that will assist us to solve those cases, because our analysis has shown that people that came out from the prison, either they've finished their sentences or they came out on bail or parole. These are the people that are not finding themselves inside. Now, in one of these things, it's either the revenge or then the split within the gang. That's what has happened there, or a leadership problem, but that's called that split. And that's what is causing in this basin the same gangs in Steenberg, Grasses Park, and the Kakabantu area.
General, we've heard from community leaders, telling us what you're telling us right now, intra-gang violence, but also the fact that there was somebody released from prison, which also caused this particular gang fighting. But if community members were aware of this, was this not alarm bells enough for police to ensure that there's adequate policing and crime intelligence to foresee the 2 mass shootings that we had this past week?
Especially if there is a intra-gang shooting, it's a very subtle thing. It's abrupt. It's not like when 2 gangs are fighting each other, but where you would see there's this gang this side and the TEF this side. But these ones, they are in the same area. They're not fighting over territory. They're not fighting over drug trading area. They're fighting within themselves, and this is compounding the whole issue is that it's within the gangs themselves, and it looks like it's a revenge for those that were inside the prison while they are finding themselves with meaningless role within the gang in this area.
Could have the second mass shooting in Kakabantu been prevented?
Not from where we're standing, because these people were inside the houses, where you know that this is area where, and remember, as I said, this area is dark. There are no street lights, there are no streets. You are just in an informal settlement in a dark area, but only a person who knows where you live, that you will know that those are people inside there, and then they start shooting those people that were shot.
We've seen the number of officers, force multipliers on the ground currently. However, before you arrived here, about an hour prior, there was a shooting in Overcome Heights, where you're saying is the epicenter of this intra-gang fighting. Do you have any information on that?
The scene was live, and what we know is that the person was shot. With no further information we had until the scene is finalized, then we would get more details. That happened before the operation started. Well, there is an operation that's happening now at Clock 1, the ordnance search, but it was aimed at starting at just past 1. And then that happened at about 12 o'clock when that thing happened.
We've seen crime escalating throughout the Cape Flats community. About an hour ago today, chairperson of the police committee was a victim of crime. Is there anything that police can give us regarding that particular crime of smash and grab?
The preliminary report we have is that the chairperson and the other MP, Mr. Kotzer, they were in A7 Road, in the area where there's a lot of traffic, where the bricks were thrown into their vehicles. And as a result thereof, we are informed that 2 of them, they sustained some injuries. That scene is very live, and the ambulance is there attending to them. And our team is there. We are sending our specialized team to look if there are any CCTV cameras in the area so that we can see who actually caused that. In that area of Philippi East is an area that is very congested in terms of traffic, and whenever you are there, then there's that congestion that we see.
We'll have to leave it there. That is the Provincial Commissioner in the Western Cape talking to us about the recent mass shootings we've seen playing out throughout the communities of the Cape Flats, zooming into Muizenberg, where there has been 2 back-to-back shootings this past week, 3 days apart, highlighting to us that environmental conditions tend to be a hindrance when it comes to the work of the police in attending to some of the crime intelligence reports that they do receive. However, he is highlighting that the issue of intra-gang fighting has become somewhat of a problem. However, they are ramping up boots on the ground in the very problematic areas and locking them down to ensure that they rid these communities of illegal firearms, ammunition, including visiting the homes of known gangsters and drug houses.
I'm still confused, Nasiphi. I mean, the problem of gangs has been with us for decades now, and one wonders when the a police commissioner says that they do have operations, but then goes on to say the place is dark and there are no streets, it's all dens. What good are these operations then, you know, if they can't break the back of these gangs, marauding gangs? I don't know. Nasiphi Same, speaking there to the Provincial Police Commissioner, Thembisile Patekile, who's adamant they are on top of the situation. But 30 lost lives later within a space of 1 week, that is a lot. What is a crisis if that is not a crisis? And how good are these operations if we can still continue to have so many lives actually being lost?